back to Hot Seat with Penzola. Thank you so much for tuning in. Today's music edition is in partnership with Samro, and I have got the pleasure of chatting to Harrison Crump, aka the Crumpster, aka Crump Daddy.
Yeah, bro.
Yeah, welcome to Hot Seat with Penzola.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for making the time to chat to us. It's
No problem.
such a pleasure.
Thank you.
Now, let's. I want to get straight into it. You know,
Okay.
you are a musician from the US, and just talk to us about where you're from and why South Africa. How did that come about?
Well, I'm from Chicago, south side of Chicago, born and raised the Windy City, where House was born back in the early 80s.
Yeah.
And as a kid, I started, making records and going to parties when I was young. My mother and father was divorced, so my mother was like, listen, I don't want you to get into gangs and drugs. You can go out and party. So I was like, okay, cool.
Okay.
So I used to stay out real late, and that's when House kind of first started.
Yeah.
And then I would start releasing records and stuff during the time, and a lot of house records through different record labels. And then I was in Miami, and somebody walked up to me and was like, hey, are you Harrison Crump? I said, yeah. Then we got this big record called Stump Your Feet. And I was like, oh, okay, we really love your record. We want you to come over to South Africa. I said, no, that's cool, man, I'll come. And then everything led on from there.
Yeah.
I visited the country.
Yeah.
It was really nice. And
So you were approached to actually come to South Africa. It's not
was
something that you chose. That you.
Yeah, at the moment, I didn't know how big House was here. And a lot of people didn't know. A lot of people that was releasing through Europe as well, even London. A lot of people didn't really know. So one thing led to another. I came here. I had a safari. I was riding horses and all that stuff.
And what is this with this? Africa and animals. And I mean, I know we've got the Big Five and the safari and whatnot, but is that what the view is of South Africa?
No, I think now it's totally different. But back then, we used to watch Channel 11. That's all we used to see about South Africa was Channel 11 after 2 o'clock at night. One channel. And all you used to see is just the animals and stuff. And you used to like, man, what's going on over there?
Are there even people
there? Right.
Yeah,
it's a true story. Because we only read about it on TV after 12 midnight on one channel, and this channel was one of them.
And they only showed one dimension of the country.
That's it.
That was so
this was back then, though. It wasn't.
But you get here now. You come in, you stay here, and what happens?
I come here and everything's nice, I have me some nice chocolate and pop, learning some things, and start doing some music with some people, start doing some collaborations, start meeting some people and stuff, and then start enjoying the vibe, start getting into the culture, learning some things, and one thing led to another.
Yeah. And then who do you work with? Who did you work with first when you landed in South Africa?
I was working with everybody. I was working with DJ Clark. I was working with Mbuso. I was working with Proverb, Double HP. Different people, guys that was just no name guys. That was just trying to come up. I wasn't just trying to work with people that was known. I was trying to also work with people, give some inspiration to some young artists as well at the time. Yes.
And then tell me, did you know it all? Were you surprised when you got to South Africa and realized that house music is a big genre?
Yeah, I was more surprised about how radio supported the genre, and I was like, wow, it's like 65-70% of the stations supported house. And that was a big shock to me because in reality, Chicago built house, but it only supports 25% of house. It supports more hip hop and R&B. So it was a good look for me,
Yeah. And what has made you stay? How long have you been in the country?
I've been here in and out for years, met some people here and there, some nice people, and this is just, there's always a bad thing about a country, every country you're in, from the U.S. to London to South Africa. So I believe it's all about who you are, what you want out of life, But the country was very humble, very, from what I can feel, from being Black American in Chicago, being pulled over by the police, and you get pulled over by the police here, it's another story, So it's a more of a comfortable thing for me than being in Chicago. So some other things I can't speak about, but
Well, you can. Nothing stops you from speaking about those things.
You know. So I've enjoyed the stay, and now I'm here permanently. So yeah.
Let's get right into it. You know, let's get into the music.
Yeah.
And I'm interested to find out what different hats do you wear within the music industry. You know, what else do you do outside of you know?
Definitely label owner.
Okay.
Publishing owner, Universal Publishing. And also, just being.
What's the name of your
Hum Productions?
Oh, Hum
So
Productions.
we got Hum Productions as a label, and Hum Productions also as a publishing company.
Okay.
So what I do is I find new artists, and I release new artists' music. I do publishing deals with new artists as well. So and then I have a recording studio as well, to where I rent out once in a blue moon to some people, that really want to do some recording and stuff. So I got a couple of things that I'm doing outside of just me being an artist.
Correct. Yes. Yeah. And I think for me, I'm also just interested in your understanding of the process of the royalties. You know,
Yes.
The reason for the music edition, which is the different conversations I'm having with musicians, is around, how well do we understand that process, and and this is based on the different stories that we're hearing.
Yeah.
How's that going for you, especially having, not being a South African first, and now being permanent in the country.
Yeah.
How is that going for you?
Well, it's going great. I mean, when I came here, I was with another collection society, and then I came upon Samaro, and I felt that it was just a better situation, since I'm here, to be signed up with Samaro, so I can be a little bit more hands-on with my royalties and stuff. So, and that's an important thing, especially as a young artist. Some artists don't really understand and don't know the importance of making sure that your registration is correct.
Yeah.
Because publishing goes a long way. Society rights go a long way. Copyrights go a long way. When you're dead and gone, your kids will still be able to be a part of that.
Yeah.
So, that was something that I felt that I had to do.
Yeah. And I mean, how do you feel that how well do you think your music is doing in South Africa? Well, I know there's a specific song that I like by you, and I know you also did a song with Proverb.
Yeah.
How are you finding the market and the uptake to your music?
No, I think that there's always a space, a search for every artist has their high point, recording.
Yeah.
And then you have that point to where you just flow on a certain level and you continue releasing. The importance is to be consistent, and just keep releasing, and then things will fall in place from there. You can't always think as an artist that you're always going to have a hit,
Yeah.
There's hits and then there's classics.
Yeah.
That's the difference, So, and that's why I advise, as part of, like, as Samro, to be part of joining them, being a member, and making sure that your works are being registered the right way. Then,
Talk to us about that difference. I mean, there's a hit and there's a classic. What is the difference?
I think a hit is something that's just hit. It hit for about 6 months to a year, and people going crazy, and then next thing you know,
we move on.
It's gone.
Yeah.
And then there's a classic, a song that's still playing 20 years later.
Yeah.
And that is very important when you register the first time.
Yeah.
To make sure things go your way. I believe that's the difference between a hit and a classic. Now, as far as production is concerned, that's a big conversation.
Yeah.
But that's my personal opinion between hit and then a classic.
A classic.
Yes.
And tell me about how AK got to sample your song.
Oh,
how did that happen? Because I mean,
Yeah.
are you also into hip hop, or is
Definitely.
it a genre that you consider?
I mean, I grew up with hip hop, Rhyme DMC, old school, LL Cool J, Biggie, Tupac, Big up to Tupac.
Yeah.
But
he was a good one. Yeah.
Yeah, but now, I grew up with that, but at the same time, where I grew up at, we had house and we had hip hop at the same time, And I love hip hop. but I love house as well. House had its own like niche, you know. It's like it had its own theme, you know, and that was something that I was interested in when I started producing. And how I got hooked up with AKA was that I was just someone gave me a call, and there was an engineer was like, "Hey man, AKA want to meet you real quick. Can you please come by the studio? He sampled your song. He wants you to hear it."
Wow.
So I said, "Okay, cool. I'll come through there, check it out. I'll check it out." I said, "What's up, young boy? What's going on?"
Young boy, you say, huh?
Yeah, no, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, man.
No, he was a really nice dude.
Cool,
you know,
yeah.
really cool cat. And he's like, "Hey, what you think?" And I say, "No, it's cool, man. You know, let's move forward with it." And then things went from there. You know. Yeah.
And how does that work? When someone, I mean, do you get like royalties, a portion of it when somebody samples a song and then it goes?
Yes, because when he sampled it, he sampled the beat, and he sampled the vocal.
The vocals
as well. So the whole part, and then part of his hook had a small melody in it with what was written on the original track.
Yeah.
But they did a great job of reproducing. I mean, just making a whole new song out of it. They did a wonderful job. And then we just sat down with our publishers, and then we just came to an agreement who gets what, and then it went on from there.
Yeah.
But it was a easy process. It wasn't something that was like tug of war. It was because everybody, it meant something for everybody.
But obviously, I mean, in South Africa, I don't know, what it is like for you in Chicago where you come from, but there's always an issue around publishing rights, and a lot of artists feel like they're being, ripped off. There's even programs that speaks directly to artists sharing their story around how they got ripped off. What is your take on that, and what can the industry do to kind of bridge the gap? Or
I personally think there's two to three things. You get ripped off if you sign the wrong things and you're not looking after what you're working with and what you're doing. If you don't understand something, you must ask. And if you don't understand again, you must ask again. Because a lot of artists think they get ripped off, but what happens is some artists get advances, for a record deal. Whatever the case may be. And then next thing you know, they finish the money.
You know what I'm saying? You almost need to pay back that money.
You see, you must pay back that money. They invested in you must pay back that money. It's simple as that. And then it comes down to a situation to where you go in the studio with someone and you write the song, and then the other guy, he just made the bass, and one guy, he owned the studio, and then next thing you know, he registered more percentage on the song.
On the song because you used the studio.
Yes, you see. But the problem is that when you get to the studio and you the writer, that paper must be out. And you guys must come into a decision before the session starts to say, okay, I'm writing the song, I'm getting 50. You the producer? What you do? Okay. You chop it up before you start. Because now you're making music,
no, it's too much excitement, make the song, so now that, when the song is done, then only you think about the facts.
Later, when the song blow up, you see.
And interesting that, I want to go back to what you mentioned earlier on, and you were like, shout out to Tupac, we were talking about hip-hop in Chicago. Obviously, when in South Africa, there's a lot of stories that we saw around the fights, the big fights, West Coast, East Coast. And where were you at the time? Like, were you in support of? Did you like both Biggie and Tupac, or what was the thing?
They was one. New York and L.A. Remember, I'm from Chicago, so it's the Midwest. So it really wasn't kind of like in the middle of that situation. We had our rappers Common, and then Kanye West came up. So we really wasn't kind of in that type of fight. And Chicago has kind of like had its own niche. Like I said, it had its own niche. We know that Chicago was hip hop and somewhat R&B at the time. R. Kelly and stuff like that. We still had house. Well, a lot of house producers come from there. Like they started like Frankie Knuckles and people like that. So that was our history. The house. So. That's how I became like part of it. I think this is where I want to go. I don't think I want to go hip hop. This is the side I feel was a little bit more not easy. And at some stage during the 90s, safer as well, because a lot of hip hop sessions usually coming in with guns and stuff like that. And the house was a little bit more laid back. So
there was not a lot of violence.
Yes.
But why do you think that? Why do you think hip hop was linked to violence?
I think it's the street guys trying to prove themselves. a lot of disorientated families, you know, and guys just thinking they can get out the hood with being a gangster rapper. You know, that was one of the things I used to see because I had owned a studio for a long time in Chicago, and I used to do a lot of them sessions.
Yeah.
You know, because I always loved to produce other genres, so I wanted to see how other producers produce hip hop and to get into that field. And so, yeah, and it's sad to see a lot of rappers being shot for no reason just because they want to portray this certain persona.
Correct. Yeah. And now, what are you busy with?
Yeah,
what is Crump Daddy busy with?
Crump Daddy busy with everything. I'm all over the place.
You're all over the show. Talk to us about where do we find you? What music are you putting out there?
I've got a couple of new singles. One called Papa God that's out now. I got a distribution deal with Electric Mode, so I'm releasing my artists through there. And I'm releasing through there. I'm gigging, writing, coming out with a new album 2022. I'm dropping my new album there. Also working on some local artists. One 14-year-old named Chardonnay. I'm working with another artist from Alexandria named Gino Brown. We're working together. A lot of different things that I'm doing in the industry, you know, to stay busy, you know, stay current and stuff like that. Doing a lot of gigs and stuff with some sponsors and stuff like that. So yeah.
And I mean, as like I asked you earlier on, what different roles you play in the music industry, and you know, obviously on a studio, publishing, you've got artists. What other income streams are you looking at? And I ask this question because there's a culture of, you know, once your peak has gone as an artist, you know, you run out of money, you know, it always ends in tears, you know, your house gets repossessed, and you know, there's no other income streams, you know, for a lot of musicians within in South Africa. So how have you diversified, or are you doing other things outside of music?
I mean, I do small things outside of music. You know, I do some small things with property, but artists must understand, like as I said earlier, that your hits will always. I mean, unless you get classics. But at that time, them classics, as far as revenue, also streams down as well. So you find other avenues that interest you to sustain your cost of living, and that's another situation to where artists, they get their first big check and then they go buy this big old mansion and they buy Mercedes Benz and all this other stuff, and then they don't know that maybe 5 years from now,
that check won't be there.
That check may not be there because. As an artist, everyone's patting you on the back. Everyone's, yeah, man, we love you, man. You're getting booked everywhere. You know, you booking is just coming in left, right, and center. You don't have to call anywhere. And then one day,
it's gone.
It's gone.
Yeah.
So now
no phone calls, no bookings.
No bookings. Yeah. Nothing. You got a DJ at Pick and Pay.
You accept the gig, right?
Hey, they're in the meat section. Yo.
Yeah.
So I think. For me, I've learned my lesson early when I've gotten a lot of money from a publishing company. Can't say it wasn't from me though.
Yeah.
And I lost that money in 1 year.
Sure.
I was laying up in a hotel. I was ordering a burger and fries. I was like, hey, send the burger and fries with champagne. And I was swiped.
Yeah.
And it was like,
and the money was there.
Decline. I said, no. Wait.
Try it again.
Try it again.
Hey, sir.
Decline.
But how come you didn't know that there was no money? Weren't you checking the balance?
I was just swiping.
Just swiping.
You know, doing things for your family, doing things for friends, you know, behind computers for people, you know. You know, you felt good about it, you know, that you were able to spend money of something where you created music. And when you were struggling, the people that helped you as well, you had to go back like, hey man, remember I gave that money to go to the studio, you know, And now you're paying 3 times as more to get that money back.
Of course, right?
You know, you're paying interest on that money. You know, so it's and that's why a lot of some artists end up in a bad situation over some years. They come into depression, they run to drugs. But like I say, you have to set yourself up when you are doing well and make sure that you're protecting yourself when things are not going your way. You know, and that will happen to every artist, I don't care who you are, you know, from Michael Jackson, I know he passed, but any major artist, there will come a time where you will
There is nothing.
Yeah, there is nothing, and you have to make ways to make other sources of income to
Mm.
make
And
sure
what,
that you're
talk
okay.
to me about that point in your life, the worst point. You know, how did
Hey,
you come out of it?
I think I was, as I said, the worst
Yeah.
point was when I lost all that money.
Yeah.
And when I lost all that money, I had did a record deal. They paid me for an album. They never put the album out.
Mm.
And I had to go to work. I had to get a job.
Yeah.
And I was working at the stock market in Chicago, Mercantile Exchange. You can look it up now.
Mm.
I used to be this thing called a runner where I used to do trades.
Sure.
I worked there for 2 years. Every day I got off work, I went to the studio to rebuild myself, to be able to not work again. But it took me 2 to 3 years to remove myself from working 9 to 5 to getting back into
music.
And then I learned a big lesson. So now it's like, you get 50K in your account tomorrow. To me, it's nothing. It's like, I may not get 50K next month. I may get 5K next month. I may get 100K next month from gigging. Then January, February, I may not get nothing. You know, who knows?
Yeah.
So you have to pace yourself as a paycheck. You have to say, okay, how much do I really want to get paid every month, and where do I cap myself? And that's how I feel. It's just my opinion.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah.
Cool.
And no, what do you call them girls that take your money? What's them girls you date to take your money?
Slay queens.
Slay queens. No slay
but,
queens.
But you can't tell me you've never been with slay queens. I'm sure you have.
Yeah.
Especially you come
back
from
in the day.
US.
Back in the day.
Come on.
Back in the day. There's a lot of slay queens in the U.S.
But I suppose, I mean,
you're here too.
No, of course, the slay queens everywhere. But
Yeah.
I mean, you know, coming from the US, you know, with the nice accent,
Yeah.
and, you know,
Oh yeah,
South
definitely.
Africa thinking, you know, I mean, we were talking about earlier on that, you know, anything US is great. So,
Yes.
so I mean, you must have had, you know, slay queens throwing themselves at you.
Yeah, I mean, it happens, you know. I mean, that's another thing that I was saying earlier is getting in trouble as an artist when it comes down to gender violence and taxes and mismanagement and alcoholism and drugs is a major part as well. And I've always stepped away from that. That kept me out of trouble. Yeah. You know, because you can find yourself. Next thing you know, you got 5 baby mamas.
Yes.
You know, next thing you know,
you're on drugs.
You're on drugs. You're in depression because now you've reached out with your finances to everyone that wants to be friends with you because of who you are.
But there's so much of that, Crump, that what was the wisdom? I mean, you're saying that you tried to stay away from that. I mean, most artists can't stay away from that because if you're booked for gigs every other day, there's women, there's alcohol, there's and most artists, you know, perform it. They don't. It's not like a 9 to 5 where it's knock off, you go home.
Yes.
So you perform and you chill.
Yeah, I think some gigs, I think you can feel the atmosphere to where you say, okay, you know, this is a situation where I'm able to relax after I play.
Okay.
And then you get into a situation where you can say, doesn't look as comfortable as I think. You know, let me just maybe speak to the promoters. Hey, man, nice gig, man. 1, 2, 3. You know, I'm gonna go back to the.
But what is that? What is that criteria that you use to suss out whether you can chill or not?
I think it's the people that you with, the promoter, people that's associated in your way you sit in your VIP, and how far your hotel is from where you're playing at, and what night it is like how do you have to go to the gig the next day, and then you know what type of establishment are you actually at, you know, as well, you know. Not saying a upscale establishment won't have trouble, but it's still, you know, just about the environment that you're in, you know. And yes, you can find yourself in a bad situation because you know, as an artist or a DJ, everybody wants to buy you a drink.
Of course.
And them drinks come free. So you definitely have to be responsible.
Right.
You know, and say, no, man, I had 2. Like, thanks, bro. You know, I appreciate it. You know, because you will find yourself in trouble. You know, so there's a lot of, like I'm saying, the music industry is not one of the easiest things to do. As I feel it could have been much easier for me to become a doctor, to become a record producer and artist, because it's not all about sometimes you actually having a great song and then you know you're going to get money. Yeah. You can have a great song and then nothing happens. You know, so yeah.
Sure.
Yeah,
And people keep saying that this industry is brutal.
Mm.
In your opinion, what is it about it that's brutal? I mean, we've touched on a few things. You know, the advances that you get, the incorrect or contracts that you sign that are not in your favor. You know, but what is, in your opinion, what is that common thread that is brutal in this space?
I think that some people, when they say, okay, my contract wasn't the right thing, but you got to understand something, that you got to understand where your brand is at the moment before you sign. Okay, where's my brand at? How many records have I sold before I signed this record? How many people know me? You know, and then you sign the deal and they pay you, and then they have what they have on the table. You can see a lawyer, and the lawyer represents you, and he said, this is the best I can do to negotiate. And then you move from there, and then now your brand builds.
Yeah.
So now you go back and say, oh no, but you guys gave me a crap contract. But where was your career before that?
Yeah.
Not saying you should sign anything, but I'm
But
saying
the numbers and your brand at the time kind of plays a role.
It must make sense. You know, it must make sense for the record label. Their business, it's a business. They're running a business. At the end of the day, you know, they're not going to give you a whole bunch of money, give you the glorious deal like they're going to give, you know, Drake or something, and you haven't sold over 2,000 copies.
So essentially, that first contract will always be crap. That's what
the first contract will not always, but it won't be.
But it won't be great either.
It won't be the greatest contract unless they really, really feel like we know this guy's going to sell a whole bunch of records. You know.
Wow, I'm not sure how they can predict. You know, whether they can sell or not.
Yeah. So especially these days, you know, it's like they're releasing so much music these days.
Yeah.
So much to consume these days. It's like so many artists, you know, because some everybody's got their own label, you know, to release, and then now you're sifting through so much music, you don't know what's really good or not.
True.
You know, back in the days, you know, in the early 70s, they had to press them records. They had to spend money to put them records out.
Yeah.
So they had to make sure that them records.
Well, now you can record in your bedroom.
Yeah, you can record in your bedroom, you know. Some stuff, some things, you know, you can actually still hear the quality from some records to other records where you know, okay, this is a bedroom record, and you can listen to this record. So,
but as an ordinary consumer, I might not technically pick up, you know, those type of things.
Yes.
You know, so
especially if you listen through your phone.
Yeah. So instead of knocking at doors, might as well do my thing and put it out there on digital platforms, which you can now. There's no need for, you know, printing CDs, sleeves, and launching the album and all of that stuff, which is probably what contributed to the money spent up front. Yes,
you know, it's just like how the movies are getting now. You know, everyone got a camera. You know, it's so spliced up right now. You know, it's like wow, and like I'm saying, as an artist, you have to be careful where you can be big this year, and next year there's somebody else. Especially like in hip hop, it happens a lot. You know what I'm saying? Like they had this rumor here in South Africa that hip hop was dead. Two years ago it was.
Kwaito was dead. Yeah. My piano's hot now. So my piano might die. According to the people.
Next thing you know, it's basement piano.
Yeah.
You don't know.
Hot now,
You don't know, you know.
You don't know,
So for me, you know, I produce a lot of different things, but people know me as house.
Yeah.
You know, this is what I do. I do house. House is universal, is around the world.
And do you like this Mapiano? I mean, would you produce a Mapiano song?
I mean, I would. I mean, I don't have anything against Amapiano. I think it's a genre. It's a part of house as well. It's got still. It's
got a bit of Kwaito and some house. It's nice. Yeah, I think it's nice.
You can play it in a house set if you want to. I have nothing against any new music that comes out. Things need to move forward.
Correct.
Things need to evolve. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You got some guys. That's not my piano. No, I'm not against it.
Yeah.
You know, but I'm a house guy.
You're a house guy.
Yeah. So that's what I do best.
Cool.
You know. Yeah.
So Crump Daddy, you know, it's been an awesome conversation. And I really, really love the fact that you're still able to create successful music in South Africa, even though you're not born and bred in South Africa. But the one question I want to ask you before we close off is coming from Chicago, you know, doing your thing, you know, and what was the one thing that shocked you about the culture of South Africa? I mean, besides the fact that you now know that we don't live with elephants in our yards, right?
Yes.
So, yeah, talk to me about that culture shock stuff.
Woo!
Woo!
How long we got here?
We got 7 minutes.
7 minutes. So I got 2 quick stories.
Yeah.
So when I first got here, this guy named Nasedi booked me. He was a colored guy, right?
Yeah.
And we did a tour. And he said, listen, Harris, let's go to the club first. I need to go pick up some people. I need you to order some pop. I said, okay, cool, no problem. How many people come in and say, nah.
Order some pop.
Yeah,
okay.
Some pop.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, pop, yeah. I said, many people coming. He didn't say, he just walked away. I don't know if you heard me. So I'm saying, maybe a lot of people coming. So the waiter came, I said, hey, my love, can I get about 25 pops?
Yo.
He said,
25
pops.
Hey.
I said, yeah. 25 pops. Hurry, bring the pop. So I seen these big bowls coming out. I'm like, what is this now? Big bowls of pop, like 25 of them. Like big pops. I said, so in Chicago, we call pop cold drink.
Wow.
Which is like
yeah,
cold.
It's a pop. Yeah,
it's pop.
Yeah.
So I'm like, no, pop.
No.
Pop.
Not the
cold.
pop, but yeah.
So the guy came back, the promoter came back like, hey, Harrison, what's this now? I said, no, man, I thought you meant cold drink, Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
I said, no. There was like 20 big old bowls on the table.
Waiter must have been thinking, 25 pop.
So another story.
Yeah.
I was in Soweto at a funeral, and they were slaughtering a cow. And my father's from New Orleans, and I've seen him not slaughter, but I've seen him cut a pig.
Yeah.
Not slaughter. So I was there at the funeral, and the guy who was slaughtering the cow was intoxicated, so he had this machete, and he was hitting the cow everywhere. The cow wasn't going down. So I was like, no, man, this is bad. So I told my friend that brought me, and he said, this is bad. So one of the family members grabbed the machete, and they're like, no, you don't do it this way. And they took the cow down. Boom! One hit. Bah! Cow went down. They chopped that cow up like nobody's business. I'm like, man, this is real Africa right here. This is real Africa. So they chopped the cow up, right? I said, no. So there was 2 cows. So I'm like, no, this is wrong. So one cow was tied on a tree. So I snuck around, untied the second cow.
Yeah.
Tried to release the cow, so I'm trying to pull the cow around the corner. Oh, that cow was heavy. So I'm trying to pull the cow around the corner. I'm doing it. So I got him a little bit like this way. So my friend said, hey man, where you been? I said, no, I took the cow around the corner. He said, are you mad? Not much that cow
Dude. Sure, that's 10 grand, man.
And everybody, the whole family was looking for the cow, like, where's the cow? And like, did the American guy take the cow? Look like this. So that was when I first got here. It was I got plenty of other stories, but that was an experience for me, that I had to.
No, I mean we slaughter cows all the time.
Yeah, so I know. Yeah. Driving on the other side of the street, I make mistakes sometimes and go on the other side.
And you've got your South African license?
Yeah.
Okay. So now you're used to driving on the other side of the road?
Perfect. So what happens when I go back to the States once to visit my daughter?
Yeah.
I make a mistake and go on the other side.
The other side.
Yeah. I was with my sister. She's like, hey, you on the wrong side of the road. I said, oh. Then I have to go on the other side.
Yeah. All right, cool. Guys, that was Crump Daddy, Harrison Crump, a.k.a. Crumpstar. Great conversation about his music and his time spent in South Africa. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment. If you do have questions for Crump, you're more than welcome to put your questions in the comment section. I will definitely get him to answer your questions. Thank you so much for tuning in again. It's been a real thing.